Does seeking end after awakening? Someone asked me a really good question recently. This person had an awakening in the last few days and noticed that after the shift, there was no sense of trying to seek anything, no sense of wanting to get somewhere spiritually. The interest in watching a lot of videos, reading a lot of material seemed to be essentially gone. And they thought, this seems a little odd, and checked it out with me. And the first question I asked was, do you feel present? And it was very clear that they experience presence primarily and thoughts secondarily, which is quite different than before awakening. So the reason the seeking in this person went away, the sense of wanting something to occur later on, the sense of having to do something to cause that to occur, the reason that basically dropped away is that that's all based in thought. It's the thought world that makes it appear as if we need to work towards something, find something to finally make us feel better, make us feel whole. We imagine what enlightenment will be like, or we imagine what an awakening would be like, and we sort of seek it with thought, with the mind, for a while. Now when we get more serious, or we get more direct with either inquiry, practice of what is mu, a one-pointed practice, or just letting go, then what starts to come into focus is this ineffable but undeniable presence. Now, at this point, hopefully you're not thinking about what presence is at this point in practice. Rather, you feel it. It's just obvious. And you begin to attune to that. And as you attune to that, it's clearer and clearer that that is uncaused. It's not of the mind. You didn't create it. You can't control it. And nothing you can do can make it go away. It's already here. No matter what you're doing, whether you're aware of it or not, it's already here. Now at this point, hopefully you're not even labeling it. It's not an it. It's just here. It's just reality ringing, walking, sitting, standing. Very clear, very immediate. And at some point, when we completely drop the mental seeking, when we completely drop the attachment to concepts and a self in time that we're imagining, then there will be a shift where that presence, that immediacy, is seen to be your identity. Or it's seen clearly that whatever you are is not apart from that. So you could say that your identity or the feeling of being a you or a someone specific sort of just melts into presence. Now, often this isn't completely obvious until after, maybe even years after, because in one way it's a very subtle shift, but the effects of it are obvious. So after that, there's some variation, but generally speaking, it's very clear you're not going to seek your way into anything in the way the mind imagines. That you don't exist in time. That you don't need to struggle with your experience to create some perfected way of being, living, etc. That's just a fool's game. It's a mental activity. So from here, what is there to do? Well, in one sense, the experience will deepen naturally. And that's usually the first thing I say is, just steep yourself in this. Let presence just overtake you. Let it be all there is. Let it show you what it is. Let it take you deeper into itself. You don't need to read a lot of books. You don't need to watch a lot of videos. And often your instinct will tell you this. You kind of lose interest in that stuff, and that's okay. Now, on occasion, certain pointers may be very valuable, but you're going to become a lot more selective because you'll see that a lot of spiritual material is confusing or is of the mind or almost encourages seeking. And you'll know the difference between that and a message or a pointing that doesn't encourage seeking, that doesn't misunderstand how this process continues to unfold, because it does. But it doesn't unfold in time. It doesn't unfold in a series of events. It unfolds right here. It deepens right now, because there is only right now. So, from here, there's no seeking. There's no seeker. But there is a deepening that's going to happen. Now, a lot of people misunderstand this, and part of it is because of a certain way of speaking, a certain trope of non-duality videos that kind of tell you there's no seeker, there's no one, there's nothing to do, which is all very good pointing to this first insight I described. But once the illusion of a seeker in time is seen through, once the illusion of a separate self is seen through, if you believe that means you're done, the process is done. If you tell yourself, well, there's no one to do anything, there's no one to seek, there's no one to work, there's no one to practice, there's no one to inquire, you're actually still believing thoughts. You're just believing a different version of thoughts. You're believing an awakened version of thoughts. So don't buy into that. There's nowhere to look. There's nothing that can be done anymore. That can really confuse people. Rather, let presence lead. Let the momentary experience show you. And it will show you, meaning you may start to feel a very intense emotion. Don't bypass it. Feel it. You might need to do some inquiry into that. It's okay. It's okay that there's no one doing the inquiry. Inquiry can still happen. Just like walking can happen. Just like eating can happen. Nothing requires a self. So it's a foregone conclusion after a significant awakening. You don't need to keep saying there's no self, right? Just do the work. So if inquiry is necessary, then inquire. Look into the narrative behind the emotion. That can help. And feel as directly as possible what's actually going on. Is there an emotion here? Is there a narrative here? Or is there a collection of sensations? And then you can start to look into the dualistic constructs. Is there actually a boundary anywhere? There's sound. There's sensation. Is there a boundary? Is there a boundary between something hearing and the sound itself? Or is it just that? Do you see how easy that kind of inquiry is? It doesn't require a self. If the mind says, oh, there's no self, I can't do that, that's a thought. You're back in thoughts, right? Rather, just observe. Don't worry about who's doing it. Experience directly. Do you find a boundary anywhere? Do you find a here and a there? Do you find an inside and an outside? If you do, where's the boundary between? Find it. Look for it. Feel for it. And when you don't find it, that's great. But if it still seems like there's a boundary, keep looking. Gently. Only in presence, not in thoughts or analysis. And you'll develop a sense of when this is necessary and when it's just completely empty, luminous presence. There will be no sense of anything to do. And that's okay too. But if there's a narrative saying there's nothing to do, there's a narrative justifying a position of not inquiring, that's a different story, right? A little bit of avoidance there. Hesitation sneaking in. Fear. Fear disguised as the knowing or believing of no self. The delusions get subtler and subtler. But don't overlook the potential fixations. Don't overlook the power of delusion. It sneaks in even at deeper stages of realization. So be vigilant, but relaxed. And let the immediate experience lead, and it will lead you deeper and deeper. It will dissolve all boundaries, all perception of form and distance, time and space.